Good morning, good afternoon to the East Coasters. Everyone, my name is Qing Bai. I'm the Director of Outreach at Cogleap Foundation. On behalf of Cogleap Foundation, Hack on the Spectrum and Chinese American Association for Autistic Community, CAAC, with support from Cognitive Leap and the Cognitive Center. Thank you for joining us today. Whether you are a neurodivergent individual, a family member, a professional, or just a community member, we are so glad you're here. Our goal today is to raise awareness of autism, promote inclusion, and share insights on how we can better support neurodiversity, especially in the workplace. A quick intro to our organizing group. So first, Cogleap Foundation is a nonprofit organization that bridges science and community through education, advocacy, and high-tech tools to help, you know, the children and young adults with special needs. And then yeah, we have many events like parents education, like a nature program. We do hiking with the kids and families with special needs, and we also provide free intervention to like underprivileged community and nonprofit organizations. And then the next Tech on the Spectrum began as a company volunteer project and now supports autistic individuals in tech through advocacy, inclusive hiring, and assistive technologies.
Yes, we the group here, I'm the moderator, and we have all the panelist speaker here, also Steve online as our panelist. We all coming from a famous high-tech company here. We don't want to name name the name because they're due to our new DEI policy. But it's one of the top 5 global high-tech company and major in search and ad. So probably you can.
Okay. And next, CAAC is a San Diego-based nonprofit dedicated to improving the quality of life for Chinese American autistic individuals through research, outreach, and equitable service access. They also organize many online events to talk about autism in this April. This is Autism Acceptance Month, and we are very honored to be included in one of their events. Yeah. So before we start, a few housekeeping notes. Online participants will be muted during the panel. Please respect our speakers and fellow attendees. Questions can be typed in the chat or raised by hand. Our volunteers will help collect them. So Blair is our volunteer. Hi, Blair, thank you. Live Zoom captions are available in multiple languages. If you can find your language captions on the toolbar. Okay, and now without further ado, I'm honored to introduce our moderator, Cindy, a passionate advocate and leader in this space. Please join me to welcome her.
Thank you, Chin. Thank you, Cogleap. And it's been an honor to join the event. So I'm a 20-year veteran in the tech company. I've been working in Dell, Microsoft, Tencent, Google, and also working from different offices from like Shanghai, Beijing, Sydney, Singapore, Tokyo, and then the US headquarters here. And I myself has been diagnosed by a relationship like family counselor, and she diagnosed me as Asperger. And since then, I was like, I kind of feel negative about that because at that time I don't know too much about that, and the way she diagnosed this is sort put me into a very bad emotion, and then I struggle a lot and I suffer a lot from being labeled as like autistic and being Asperger. So I read a lot of books. I read a lot of online information to see where do I fit, where should I belong. And then the more I know, the more I think, okay, if I've been working so much experience, all those companies hire me for a reason. I should be proud of myself and why previously this minority group has not been here too much voice within my own company. And the more I explore, I actually found there is a small group there, and there are a bunch of talented people over there. So I try to put the negative way to a positive thinking. Probably previously people did not hear much voice. I can stand out. I can like do more things for this group, and that's where we started kind of um, the Tech on the Spectrum group. And since then has been already 5 to 6 years, and we have been doing a lot of awareness, acceptance events. We promote the things within different product organizations into their town hall, their DEI events, and also pushing the organization transformation about the grad interview process. So now, again, this month is our acceptance month. I have all my talented colleagues here. We have panel here, and they're looking forward to present this out to you. Then hand over to Evelyn and let her introduce herself.
Hello, I'm Evelyn. I'm a software engineer. I've been working at the same company for like, what is it, 6 years now? And yeah, it was my first job out of studying. So yeah. Yeah, I guess let's see what else. Hobby, I've been really interested in geology lately. It's pretty neat. Like you can just go and look at the rocks and figure out what happened. It's kind of magical. I should probably not get too much into that because we only have 1 hour. But yeah, I'm passionate about autistic community. It feels like a place I fit in well, so it's really nice. Yeah, that's all.
Evelyn actually got her secret power, and she's sing beautiful song. And I called her probably during the event to sing karaoke. Hi, Steve, who is online.
Great. Hello all. I don't know if anybody can see me or not, but I'm here. I am Steve Enlow. I have been working in tech, most of my career. I am not technical though. I don't write code, do things like that. I kind of specialize in making contact centers work well. So I always say that if tech worked perfectly, I wouldn't have a career. We wouldn't need contact centers. I was diagnosed late in life and, kind of moved from, why is everybody else so different from me to, oh, I'm different than everybody else. And I've been kind of navigating that ever since. And it's good to be here with everybody. Excited for the conversation, and I'm hoping we can have a good interaction.
Thank you, Steve. Iris.
Hi everyone, my name is Iris. I'm a product manager, and I have worked as a product manager probably for about 10 years. And before that, I had a business degree, Master of Business Administration, and I did my own startup in Singapore. And before that, I worked as a software developer in Europe for 2 years. I also worked in nonprofit for another 2 years. And because of all those experiences, you probably realize that I have ADD. I diagnosed ADHD late at 33 years old. The diagnosis is a big relief to me, and I will share more about this to you later. Happy to be here.
Thank you, Iris. And Louis. And for all facing me person join the meeting here, Louis live in the mountain. He drive over an hour like to come here. So big dedication effort. We are
Oh,
very honored
thanks.
to have you.
Don't even mention it. My name is Luis. I'm from Venezuela. I grew up in the Caribbean with a sandy beach as my backyard. Growing up there, we didn't really have mental health or screenings as something that was available. So I was never diagnosed until very late in my life. I am a technical program manager. I work for the cloud division and I manage programs with 33 teams involved with different deliverables for each one of them in there. So obviously I also have deficit of attention.
We're super achievers.
I since since you mentioned I moved to the mountains, one of the things that made that decision was that we found this property that's probably the last affordable home in the state of California that had a very tiny vineyard attached to it.
Wow.
So I'm growing Pinot Noir grapes, and right now I am struggling to turn them into wine. I have a tank of 225 liters of wine that are going through a secondary fermentation right now. And hopefully by the end of the year, it should be drinkable, like a very cheap wine that you find at the bottom shelf of a really dusty supermarket.
So yes, thanks again for our panelists here. And as we can see and feel, the traditional or very normal impression for the group can be, oh, those people are serious, those people are quiet. But I hopefully for the event, you can see, no, it's not just people put their bubble of very awkward impression to the group. Everyone here is super fun, super talented. They have a rich experience to share. So I'm very happy and looking for the next conversation. And now I'm going to throw out the first question to our panel speaker here. The first one, well, how did you realize, probably some of you already touched that, but now I want everyone to elaborate more about your journey. How did you realize autism or ADHD? Like, what's your journey to diagnose and what does that mean to you? Especially how you want to bring this into today's important conversation. Okay, let's start from like Evelyn.
Hi. Yeah, I was diagnosed early, I think age 8 or so. And yeah, I kind of it was like, oh, this explains everything. And then I guess it sort of sat in the back of my mind for years and years. And then I think around 2023, early 2023, I sort of started rethinking some things, and I then decided I'd try leaning into the autistic community more, and I did, and it's been really nice. It's nice. I think I might have been diagnosed with ADHD too at some point. I don't remember. But yeah, that's all.
Thank you. Who wants to raise hand on one? I can call you.
I can share this. My journey for the diagnosis. Well, I think my journey started back when I was in elementary school, but I didn't diagnose until I was 33 years old. So you probably know that I said I have ADD, and which is a attention deficit disorder, and it's not attention deficit hyperactive disorder. So the hyperactive means that the person is very fidgeting and keep on moving, which is very easy to notice. But for just attention deficit, it means that this person is very quiet, but in the mind, it's like a racing car, constant racing thoughts. And this is very difficult to diagnose, especially for girls, because the natural impression is girls are very quiet, and they also work very hard to cover the time that they wasted. So it's very hard for a girl to diagnose. I was a very good student since elementary school. Teachers are happy and I have a good grade. But I knew that I was different. I don't understand. I supposed to finish the homework at Friday, but I will wait until Sunday night or even Monday morning, right? Very last minute. And sometimes I just get into like a very silly mistakes and I got teacher mad. I got my parents mad. I know what I'm supposed to do. And I know I should do that, but I don't know why I don't do it. Right? I seriously like criticize myself. Right? In high school, I start to have clear goal where I want to go. Right? I know what kind of university I want to go to and what kind of jobs I want to have. And I know I will have a startup at someday. So I know all of this. When I pursue this every stage, I fail at least once. And my parents' comment is that you aim too high. Why can't you just be a normal person, have a reasonable goal, right? I don't think I was being unreasonable. The reason I think that those are the goal because I think I can do it, right? Cognitively, like the interviews of our company, I know it's very difficult. I know I can make it, but why can't I make it, right? So since high school, I focus on fixing myself, right? So I read a lot of psychology books and did all the possible online tests, like psychology, what personality, whatever, right? And time management and project management. After MBA, I even spent, I had a 6 years psychotherapist session. 6 years, at least once a week. I think I contribute to the therapist mortgage, so much. Right? So the therapist is a very good person. It's just like they never think if like the neurodivergent caused the issue, right? So we work on every possible problem that an adult can have, right? What is the influence your parents gave to you, like a negative impact, your growth environment, and your toxic boss, and your relationship, all those kind of problems that human potential can have, I work on them. I work on them really hard to solve the problem I have. But still, is where I hope I can be, where I think I can be, and where I actually land is the gap become bigger and bigger. So in 2018, I already lost faith. So I already had a lot of achievement at that point, but I started to tell myself, those achievements were just luck. Okay, it's possible that you will never get to the company you want to be. It's okay. Just get married, raise a kid. That's also a meaningful life. I can't do it, right? And at that point, I was struggling and I was still like doing all that kind of trackers to figure out, hey, what is wrong with me? And then suddenly, although I already fixed every problem I have, I still like, I don't know why I'm still not there. One day I suddenly realized, oh, I'm supposed to work on this task. I'm tracking it, right? So I timed it. I work on this problem, and the second I started working on this problem, a new idea came to my head, and I opened another tab and I work on that new idea. And before I finished typing and read the result, I come another idea. And so 2 minutes, I have like 15 tabs in my browser. I was like, oh, you have an impulsive issue. This is a new problem you can fix. So I get into Google and say how to stop being impulsive. And all the answers return is what is ADHD and how do you do with ADHD? I was like, what? I even dated a person who have ADHD, who have been like so active that you can tell, right? But I have never been like that. How come? Is Google wrong? Right? So I started to read about ADHD that night until 3 a.m. and read some like influencers talk, get into this. Okay, that's my story. I have ADHD. I basically diagnosed in the midnight and made a schedule to appointment to a doctor second day, and get into the office and doctor said, yes, you have ADHD. And that was a moment I was like, okay, all the questions about myself from the life have an answer now. I know what happened to me. So that's my journey of a diagnosis.
Thank you, Iris. we can see how she has been struggling, but her dedication, her resilience, and her pursuit for success and to figure out the clue, really inspiring. And yeah, we will hear more about her story later. And Luis, you want to share your journey?
Yes, of course. As I mentioned before, I grew up in a really small poor fisherman village in Venezuela. My parents were really focused on trying to keep us out of poverty for the majority of their time, so they really didn't have the time to stop and think, how some of the behaviors that I had were different. I learned to read when I was 3 years old. And it wasn't because I was a genius, it was because my mom, she used to play a game with me of showing me the letters of the alphabet, and she told me how they would sound like with a human voice. And I just put together that one pattern and another pattern will match. And if I saw letters, they'll have a sound and the sound mixed together. Thankfully, Spanish is very easy to pronounce. And the first word that I ever read was a menu. Um, and it wasn't, I always felt like there was something different in the way that I saw things, in the way that I interacted with the kids in my school, the way that I saw how people were doing things, and I felt alienated for the majority of my school time. I didn't really belong in any of the clubs. I never really belonged to any group of kids, to any clique. And that feeling of alienation just continued as I grew into my college years. The only advantage that I had is that, I understood things that were very clear and concise and logical. I like order. I like things that make sense, and I like predictability. So naturally, I went for systems engineering when I went into college, and that led me to get a scholarship into a high-tech company in Venezuela. And I never really thought too much about it. I just knew that I had a different or broken human to human interface. And don't ask me how, but I managed to find somebody who could tolerate some of my quirks. And we established a deep friendship over the years. We get married in Buenos Aires. We had a kid. And as life goes on, the pressures of the world weigh on you, and you have to find ways to cope with them. And what I found is that the majority of the advice that they would give people in therapy, they didn't really apply to me. They didn't really work. And I came to a point in which, like she mentioned, I knew there were things that I needed to do. I knew that there were dates that I had to apply to, and I just could not get myself to finish them or to get onto them. So I was talking to my psychiatrist about this. At this point, I decided, you know what, let's throw everything into the sink. Let's see what is really out there that is preventing me from getting to the things that I need to do. And I discovered that I have attention deficit disorder, not of the hyperactive kind. That was in 2020. So I lived probably 38 years of my life without knowing this, just adapting to the world, using different masks, using different skills, as different components that I could use to integrate with the world. And not only she told me that, but she also told me that I fit within the criteria of what used to be called Asperger's syndrome, which is now part of the autism spectrum disorder. So that clicked to me. That's a lot of the ways that a lot of the ways that my mind works fit within those expectations, within those patterns. And what I've also realized is that through my life, what I had been doing was to leverage some of the strengths that I had to move through the world, to move through relationships, and to move through my career without even realizing that I was leveraging, different strengths, different patterns, and different mechanisms. It would have been a lot easier for me if I knew this when I was 13 years old, 14 years old, instead of 38. But like Foucault said, you are what you are. You are thrown into the world, and left is man. Man is left what is thrown at him. So that also allowed me to see the world with a deep feeling of freedom and emancipation. The fact that I always felt like I wasn't, that it was a model that wasn't really built for society or for the world, made me feel that I didn't really have anything to fear, and that I could just count on myself to keep pushing forward. Um, the I guess the problem that I had the most without that diagnosis was the acceptance. Is that it took me years to accept the fact that it was okay to be me, it was okay to be who I was, to think the ways that I thought, and I didn't have to like fit inside of what the expectations of society had prepared for me. And that emancipation, that desire for freedom, has taken me to places where it would have seemed impossible when I was 8 years old, 10 years old, 12 years old.
I hear you, Louis. Thank you for sharing the journey. Definitely. Yeah, we can. I hope everyone can resonate his exploring in the dark world, using different patterns, using different ways, try to accommodate the world, and then suddenly feels like, wow, open a new door, see the new light coming throughout the world. I can imagine it's such a wonderful feeling. Next one, let's see, Steve, share your journey with us.
Yes, thank you. And I have figured out that I am a small box right above Luis's head, so I can be seen. So that good to. I can't see everybody else, but yeah, hey, I'm right here. So my my journey is it sounds like it's pretty similar to a lot of the other panelists. I really liked Luis's description of a different human to human interface. That's a pretty good description of how I felt a lot of my life. When I finally got diagnosed, I had gone through a pretty chaotic period in life and went and sought some help. And where I ended up, they did a lot of testing on me, and I was during the testing process, the neuropsychologist kind of nodded a lot and nodded a lot, and at the end I asked, so what do you think? And he was like, ASD, you are there, definitely. And so for me, it really wasn't. It was a little anticlimactic. This is something I had suspected for a long time, and it just finally had a piece of paper and a credentialed practitioner validate kind of what my life experience was.
Oh, thank you, Steve. So it sounds like everyone had their journey. I will follow up on that, like Iris and Louis, they've also mentioned about the diagnosis means a lot to you. Do you want to share more about this part? What does the diagnosis mean to you? Or any final?
Yeah, in my case, it means naming it, right? Because if in my case, what I was dealing with was a sensation of alienation, of not being on the same level or at a different strata of other people. And it it was really hard for me to bridge that gap and to make meaningful connections with other people. To be able to name it and to say, this is it. It allows also to have a little bit more of self-compassion and to see, to recognize some of my patterns and say, oh, you know what, I am being maybe a little bit too rigid in my thinking in this particular case. I need to be a little bit more flexible, or being a little bit too analytical on this front. Maybe I need to be a little less, less analytical, or I really don't know how to interact with this person. I really cannot bridge it. And I just need to be frankly and very openly and very honest and say, I'm telling you this, not because of I mean, because this is how I see the truth, and I need to tell you this. And being free to be honest is liberating.
Yeah, I can go next. What does it mean to me after diagnosis? I think the diagnosis means that I finally can stop criticizing myself and accept who I am and understand how my brain functions and start to stop fixing myself and start to focusing on the strength that I have. So I'm gonna tell you another story, and I will try not to be too emotional. I remember the day that I get out of the clinic, right? I was in the car and I was waiting the red light, and suddenly I just started to cry, very loud. It's because that all the criticism that I had in the life just came to me, right? A lot of the criticism actually came from myself, right? You subscribe membership, why can't you do that 3 times a day, right? 3 times a week, and you said that you're gonna do this, why didn't you do it, right? So this thing is so easy, why can't you, right? So all this kind of thing has been like in my life for forever, and the diagnosis, and the moment I was sitting there, I realized, I told myself, it wasn't your fault. You had tried enough, right? So that's the first time that I feel I had the permission to be kind to myself, that I tried really hard. So I think this is a very, very important to me. And the second is, as I said, I was very confused, like, why do I do something? And I try to find an answer, like how I operate. I didn't know the answer until the diagnosis. I started to read a lot of books. I think there are 4 or 5 books focused on specifically for the ADD adult women. So they have all kinds of the symptoms and how you deal with it and how you're gonna have a different life, right? So one book, they even talk about the kind of like a tragic relationship you can have, right? They describe like 4 types of relationship. I was like, oh, I already went through all of them. I wish I could have like read this book earlier so I don't date this type of people, right? So I can find the person what Louis said, that he was able to find someone who is really tolerant him. This actually is the most important thing for finding a partner, right? Because we need someone who is able to tolerate, right? So for the book, it also says that instead of 3RE, they say renegotiate the role and responsibilities in your family, right? So do what you're good at and shift the responsibility of what you're not good at to the other people, right? And then the second is reimagine the success, right? So you are not good at a certain tasks, but you are good at some maybe more abstract, like strategic work. So more focus on this type of success, right? And that means that doing the admin work seems simple, but it's very difficult for ADHD people. But doing the strategic work seems like a very high level role in the company, but it's a lot easier for ADD, right? So that's basically told me like, where should I go, right? And the last one is reimagine your self-image. So the thing for the ADD is not like the discipline and break the rules. It's like the criticism just hurt you that you don't have confidence, right? And now it's time that you know this, and you have to have all those self-efficacy to make yourself have a different self-image and have a self-esteem, right? So understand those just help me to know like what is the focus from now on instead of fixing myself, but it's a better way to guide me. And the last thing is I also read a book that ADD is a gift. And that book basically talks about the superpowers and the strengths of the ADD, the neurodivergent people have, the others don't. For examples like creativity and entrepreneurship and being sensitive to relationship, like nature, enjoy nature is one of the things as well. So all those things just tells me that how do I deal with the energy restore, what gives me energy, what doesn't, and what can excel at work. So the current job, the traits or the skill sets required for the current job is perfectly match the ADHD trait. So I literally just use the strengths of ADHD to excel at work. So that's where I see finally, like 7 years after the diagnosis, I get onto like the positive reinforcement and have the start have the life I wanted like since high school. So that's what diagnosis means to me.
Thank you, Iris, so much. You hit a lot of important things. We're going to elaborate in the next couple more minutes. The first one I want to recall where Iris mentioned very important, like self-criticism and self-doubtness, question. I want to raise question here for the audience because I know their kids, their parents, because the self-acceptance, that's also our theme, the whole Autism Acceptance Month. Acceptance is such an important thing and the keyword we want to highlight. And given the parents here, because probably your kid and the children, they're already suffering a lot from self-debate, self-doubtness. How many of you here give them a hug, give them encouragement, give them tolerance instead of give them much more push? I want to respect husband here, like how many, well,
Do you want me to talk about a
yeah,
story?
instead about,
Okay. I have, I was just talking to my husband this morning about my son, who's already 28. When he was 2 or 3, he had a lot of problem with noises. So when I was driving down, we were talking about Denver because we drove down that road from Denver to Colorado Springs. He screamed when we had these wiper on. And I couldn't understand why the wiper made a huge impact on him. And then I realized now, after 15 years, 20 years, that he probably was very sensitive to the noise. And he is on the, I wouldn't say he's on the spectrum, but he's on the spectrum of being very sensitive. So I was just realizing it, that when we were in the moment, we weren't, I just couldn't take it, right? I'm like, well, we have to wipe this because the rain is too much. But then we are not slowing down to think about what he was suffering. And I told him, you know, when he was 15, 20, I said, oh, I didn't realize that we were not recognizing and accepting your different needs.
Thank you so much for the sharing. And I hope like by learning and sharing all those stories here, we created a world with much more love, much more tolerant acceptance, and therefore we can foster the world into a much beautiful world. So Iris also mentioned about accept yourself and find your special strengths instead of focus on their weakness. So this is another very important thing. I think Steve, I know you have excellent story, especially also Louis, like how you guys use your strengths instead of the weakness to make success in your career. Yeah, probably Steve, you can start first.
Okay. Yeah, and so for me, in my career, my gifts are, I use my gifts similar to the way several other panelists have talked about. I am you can't see this. I am a consummate list maker. I can't pull up a list, that won't work. But what one of the panelists said about a kind of strategic thinking and sort of long-term thinking, and how an organization or a change or a process is going to play out, and really thinking more in a long-term way is something that I've been able to use in my career. And bringing a lot of self-care practices that I have learned over time, that I have come to understand are kind of coping skills with living in and working in a neurotypical dominated environment. Bringing those skills and being able to keep myself centered, keep myself focused, and keep myself productive. Where if I kind of went on my first thoughts or my first inclinations, I would not be productive. I would be fleeing or trying to find safety in situations in the work environment.
Thank you, Steve. Luis, I
Yeah.
know you're super very well organized.
I like order. I like predictability. I don't like changes. I like things that have a clear destination and we get there. So naturally, I went for systems engineering when I was in school. I discovered that I could identify patterns, take problems, break them into smaller chunks, and find ways to deal with those problems in a systematic way. Once I started my career in IT, what I also discovered is that since I like these things, I also like to organize work to make sure that the plan doesn't change, to make sure that, things that we said that we were going to do were actually done. So that led me into project and program management. So identifying patterns, creating orders, and making sure that everybody understands what is a common goal has been skills that helped me in my career, and also, part of who I am and part of how my mind works. Naturally, having difficulties creating social relationships and having a very rigid thinking are impediments that I need to work actively on. I need to make sure that I'm flexible enough and I am communicating and understanding well with my teams. So that's where I've grown as a person and as a professional. So leveraging how my brain is wired, and also stretching into areas in which I'm not really comfortable, which is, to understand, the human part of tech. I I'm not saying that it's a prescription that everybody should, just follow the same path, but there are benefits in the way that we are wired, in the brain that our brain works. And we just have to identify those strengths and leverage them, and to find areas of growth and opportunity where we can, extend ourselves. That's and I don't know if I could call it a superpower. It's just, that's just how I that's just how my mind works. I just had the ability to identify, what works well for me and what works well in the industry, and I taken advantage of that.
That's exactly superpower. It's like I don't need extra efforts, just it works naturally better than other people do.
Yeah. I don't know. I also like to analyze things to death, so that helps too.
So it's actually our superpower, and then to highlight our strengths. So like Louis, he mentioned, organization makes things clear, makes things very well cleaned out. That's where he is such a successful technical program manager in his role. And also I know Steve, he was a very humble, but he organized knowledge base, super cool, and therefore that's the way to scale much knowledge across different teams, across different systems. So all of us actually use our strengths over the weakness for the people part. The people part, when I want to mention, when I talk with our panelists here, we finding the commonality, like doing the chit chat or small talks, such like we share the same feeling. It's such a waste of time. Why our colleagues in the space talk about their weather, talk about pets? Why does it matter? Can you just talk about the business? We want to know how like some of the project goes. Why you talk to me with your pet? I don't care. So those are the people part. But we definitely share the commonality. We figured out, okay, actually the organization appreciate our strategic thinking, appreciate our organization's things, clear orders, stuff of things, because we are truly make things happen, truly make the organization excel. So using the superpower where in your strengths and pivot that from where being criticized for, that's important. And then also that means we talk about acceptance. The environment supporting individual here to be successful, I can imagine we get a lot of love from our relatives, our family. So I want to talk about this part. What kind of support did you get from your family and the relatives? Is that from you?
Yeah, I can talk on this. My family are pretty great. They supported me, dragged me through doing my homework. Well, much of my homework. Yeah, then yeah, got me through high school, helped me a bit in college, and we're generally accepting and understanding. Yeah.
Even you're super shy, I know you have like broader family members,
Mhm.
and when you go young, they love you a lot. And
Yeah,
yeah,
it's really nice. I feel really lucky to have my family. My 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 partner's family is not quite so supportive, and she's really struggling with that. So I don't know. My own family's great though.
yeah. Well, we see the power of love. Okay, well, yeah, Steve, because I know Steve, you also have a big family. Steve, he not only like do his day-to-day work well, he also support his family, and I imagine the feeling is equal, kind of from the love is flowing within his ecosystem. So I'd like to hear more from Steve.
Yeah, and I'm sorry, Cindy, I'm having a little trouble hearing. I might log out and log back in, but if you want to kind of talk about how my family, treated me after a diagnosis and how I'm supported. Again, I was diagnosed later in life. It was a bit anticlimactic for my family. I remember my daughter telling me, "I told you so." That it wasn't a big shock. I'd say, my family gives me a lot of latitude to take care of myself, to be able to kind of do a lot of recovery from the work environment. Here lately, in maybe like the last 9 months, I'd say probably 90% of my life has changed for various reasons, and my family's been very supportive of all the things that we've had to do and change and go through. I am very thankful for that. I've got a kind of understanding core of people around me that will let me be and take care of myself.
Appreciate that. Given the time, we are hitting time really quick, and I think that's what's really rich for a spirit journey. So probably to ask the last one, what advice will you give to the audience here? If you want to use like 1 to 3 bullet points, what kind of advice you want to give? And then we can open the floor for people to raise their question to the panel speaker. Okay.
Let's see. Find a accepting community. I think for a lot of us, we feel like most people we don't really fit with, but like I promise there are people out there we do, and it's when you find those people, it's magical. It's life changing. Yeah, find your people.
Find the people.
I guess for parents, the biggest advice that I can give is that be aware that your kid has a different way to arrive to their own thoughts, and it's okay to ask. It's okay to feel that bridge. Rigid thinking is a source of conflict, and as they mentioned with the example of the wiper shield, in my case were colors or foods that would give me sensations that I disliked. And I could like avoided them. And it was a source of conflict. Like, why cannot you eat that? Why can't you eat this potato? This potato gives me a headache. It was a regular potato, but it would give me a headache if I ate it. So it may seem irrational, but you know, they just have a different way to get there. Um, and for the kids, understand that, you know, as you gain some, you know, self-care and self-compassion, you can also understand that masking can help in some cases, but it's a double-edged sword, right? It can help you bridge the gap between you and the others, but it's draining. It takes a lot of effort, and it's like running a background program in the back of your mind all the time. So also be aware that you can unmask, that you can be honest to other people and say, you know what, this is how I feel about certain things. I am never going to be able to do these other things. I don't do small talk. I'm really sorry. I just want to talk about things that matter right now. And as you give yourself that license, some people will accept you as such, and it will free you from constantly trying to fit a round peg in a square hole.
Advice? Not really advice. I just want to share one thing that I find useful is how you think about the diagnosis. I want to share a metaphor. So to me, I think ADHD in some way is like someone is nearsighted. And if you didn't know that this person is nearsighted, you will feel, oh, this kid cannot read, just don't read well, or just cannot play games, cannot play the game sports really well, right? And if you didn't know this is how they function, you will say, try harder, try more, right? Spend more time, make more efforts. It just doesn't work, right? But if diagnosed and realize this, and then put glasses, right? And then they can immediately function just as the same as the other kids. And they can save the time that they used to try harder to develop their own strengths. Right? So I talked with a lot of people, they were hesitating about diagnosis. And even for my father, after I told him that I diagnosed, he said, why can't you just pretend you didn't have the diagnosis? So if you didn't, then things never happened, right? I think it doesn't work in that way, right? So once you understand this, I think diagnosis is not a label, it is just a lens to help you to understand how the brain functions, and should help you instead of like limiting it. That's one thing I'm going to share. Dave?
And then, yeah, I'd say if I had kind of one thing for people to take away from me today, it's that self-care is more important than avoidance. I'd say for myself, you asked previous in life, Steve, do you want to do a panel discussion with parents and recent graduates about the job market, for neurodivergent people? I would have said, oh no, that's weird and strange and a different experience. No, I don't want to do that. But today I'm here talking to everybody. And I plan on immediately after this putting on some hiking boots and going outside and taking a hike for a couple hours in the newly fallen snow here in Colorado. And that is my plan for self-care. I am going to do something that's quite far out of my my kind of zone of comfort. But I know that I will take some recovery time and take some time for myself afterwards to be able to be able to take care of myself. And so I can participate in something like this. And I know what coping skill and what kind of self-care action I need to take afterwards.
Thanks so much for everyone sharing. To summarize, find your people where you know to get a loved one and supporting system to hold your success. And recognize the difference to know where you need to mask or unmask. So you can adapt to the environment quickly to make sure a success for yourself. For diagnosis, it is not a label, it's just a lens. And the self-care, to self-care for more about yourself, then you can reach out to more comfortable, uncomfortable zone to stretch your strength. So, okay, thanks every speakers here. I know a lot of the online folks and also people here, we have a lot of questions. Probably you will curious about everyone, how get to the high-tech successful company, how do they prepare interview, etc. I open the floor to people to raise questions, and then they can get your more customized question and more individual questions to our honored speakers here. Yeah.
Always me.
Yeah.
I have a question about misdiagnosis. I'm thinking of a specific kid where, yes, he was not very, have many friends in classes. But he was, I thought, he was diagnosed as on the spectrum in 5th grade. That became a sort of a label that was put on him. So every time he had this difficulty, then the people around him, including his family, would say it's because he had autism. So I was just wondering, have you seen this kind of misdiagnosed, which actually was detrimental to kids? Or you guys have experienced any of something similar?
Not particularly, but I can tell you that one of us and my therapist told me is that the diagnosis is not a baby blanket.
Mhm.
It's not something that you cover yourself to seek comfort and to shield yourself from the world. You still have to interact with it, and you have to find ways to cope with it. What it allows you is to see how you do it. So,
He was also later diagnosed as ADHD. So it's kind of compounded the
correct.
difficulties.
What
And he hasn't found the.
But I also
don't
know
think
that
accepting
what I also
people.
know is that there's comorbidity between ADHD and autism. So some symptoms or some behaviors may seem like it belongs to a category, but it could be really associated to other. And there are even some other reasons beyond ADHD and autism that could create some of those behaviors. So it's always good to have a solid testing that can back the diagnosis.
I want to share something. I wonder whether this is about the diagnose or is about to disclose this to others. So for example, I diagnosed, but I haven't really disclosed I have ADHD at work at all. When I entered the company, I specifically talked to 2 therapists and also the founder of an ADHD organization inside of the company. I said, should I disclose this to my manager? The 2 therapists who have worked with other people in tech strongly against. I was surprised. I don't understand why, but they just said, don't say this. And one of the main reasons is that the manager, when you disclose this to the manager, they may not know what to do with it, right? And when I talked with the founder of the ADHD organization in the company, she said, yes, you definitely should tell them that on the day 1, because if you wait until you get the performance improvement plan, and then you disclose, it almost like you are finding excuse. I was like, seriously, you don't imagine that I can success here, right? So I do see, and now so when I work with people, sometimes when I look at a couple of people, I know that they have ADHD. I can tell, but I'm also carefully thinking, how do I judge them? Do I, because
Yeah.
That's where I feel is like, I don't know if you disclose will, everyone will accommodate and
Yeah.
tolerant, right? Be friendly and be supportive and just share the load. I don't know. I think that's why we're saying like find the right people is so
Yeah.
important, right?
Mhm.
Because not everyone helps you. So I think this is about the disclose. For the diagnose, misdiagnose, I'm not sure about that. I know that for ADHD actually have a lot of coexist problem. So for example, when I diagnosed, they already told me that I have a depression, like a mild and medium depression. It's literally caused because of all the trouble that because of ADHD, right? And when I interview, I also had anxiety that hurt my performance, and that I also need to deal with this. I'm not sure if I have ASD or autism or not. Maybe I haven't had time to deal with that. So there's like a coexisting problem. So yeah, so as Louis said that he diagnosed ASD first and then later say you also have ADHD. So I don't know which one is the root cause. I think ideally if you can figure out which one is the root cause, that actually help, right? Solve the problem.
Yeah, I mean,
Right.
and that's,
Dominate.
Yeah, exactly, right?
Yeah.
Because for example, I should stop. Okay. So for example, I do a lot of at work, and at a certain point, I just become getting into the burnout zone. At that point, I noticed that I become very controlling to the progress. Cannot change the goal. You can't change the goal anymore. We need to go there. No change. And against that, I become very angry, and I don't want to talk to people, right? So I think I get into like the ASD zone, like closer when I get in the burnout, right? But do I have the like permanent ASD? I don't know. Maybe that's caused by certain like scenarios, right? So it's still like need to figure out what dominant.
well, that, as I mentioned before, there's comorbidity. You may have both, you may have
Yeah.
traits from one and the other. I think it's good to seek a professional advice and to see really what is the map.
See the ladies and gentlemen, they all have questions.
Yeah, thank you both speakers for the wonderful talking. My name is John. My son is 8 years old. He is diagnosed autism. And I think Iris just mentioned disclose or not disclose. I'm not sure if I disclose too late to my manager. Then yeah, so for my son, he's very different. He sneak out of the house without I good notice, and then we have to call police many times to find him. And he climb over the fence to the neighbor house, neighbor got killed. And then we have to apologize to our neighbors and have to build, reinforce our fence. Well, we were thinking about to happen. And then we put all the locks to our house, change the locks, and then he find a way to sneak out from the second floor to the roof, and then it's a huge burden for us. And then I'm not sure if I disclosed too late or too early. My manager into the performance. No, actually, he just fired me yesterday. So I like to get you guys there. Otherwise, how should I?
Because I'm so sorry to hear, and also so thankful for sharing. And I'm sure you hold a lot of pressure on yourself and family.
Yes.
In the situation, I would definitely recommend to disclose your situation, because otherwise you hold the whole burden on yourself alone. That's too much. That's a lot.
Yes, I disclosed. But my manager still say I'm not underperformer, not meeting expectation.
Then in the other way, I think it's a turn this perspective in the other way. That could be at this moment, I know you suffer a lot because you need to find another job. But also the lucky side is you don't need to deal with such like intolerant manager. You're living a toxic environment. You can now find a place where accept your uniqueness and understand your situation and still accept you. So in that way, can be a good thing for the next journey. And then I can share about in the high-tech company, for example, SAP, and their working environment, they will have a badge on your like on your clothes for people who are on ASD. They encourage folks to wear a badge on autism at work. So therefore, the other colleagues or the managers know this individual, she or he is on the spectrum, he is autistic, and therefore the environment can adapt him or her in the way they want. So there are such environment, they actually exist. And also I know for Amazon, they kind of in their like glossary store, they are opening some special program and the job. They accept autistic worker, where the autistic, they can do simple work, just package the stuff, deliver the stuff at the glossary, the offline glossary store. So there are actually some work and the type of work that exist. So try to find this kind of special program and find the accepted environment. And that's also the meaning why we hold this event, because we want people to know and awareness, acceptance, and therefore they can raise hand to offer help.
Thank you.
Um,
so much.
One more thing, there are resources in the county of Santa Clara that you can reach out to whenever you have a safety or a crisis situation. I can give you the details of the Pacific clinics in the Santa Clara County. You can call them whenever you have a situation like this, and they will send a response team to your house to help you deal with this. It might be temporary, but at least it'll give you the tools to address the situation in time and figure out what is the best path forward for treatment for your kid.
I can also provide you the two therapist contact information. I think they have like initial, they all have experience like deal with ADHD and like neurodivergent kids. So see if they have anything that potentially can work. Yeah, for the work situation, to be honest, until now I feel uncomfortable to disclose still. I perform pretty well at work, but unfortunately, most of the managers are not nurturing. Right? They are also just normal human. They don't know what they are doing.
Yeah.
Right. So I feel it's good to leave a toxic environment. Yeah, I think for the next environment, it will be good that we figure out what works the best for us and find that environment. I'm sorry, and thank you for sharing.
Thank you.
So I want to share some of my personal experience and like that Lucas mentioned about the Pacific Clinic. I actually work there too. I'm on call at night. I'm a child psychiatrist. And I would say disclosure is important if you do it mindfully. Like disclose the information, just like what Evelyn said, find the right people, disclose to the people, to the community, which you know they will understand, they will help. And I think early diagnosis is very important. So in my clinic, I see that there are family, they eventually brought their children over because the problem became so severe that they just, reach the point that they hit a wall. They cannot tolerate it anymore. However, they missed the very important early years to have intervention. So early intervention makes a huge difference educationally, medically. The kids, they can get a lot of support if you have an official diagnosis. But if you have all these symptoms, you don't have a diagnosis, it's hard to open those doors. And, if you want your children to get help, you want your family to get help,
then mindful disclosure can be helpful. And it was also mentioned about the mobile crisis team. So each county, San Mateo, Santa Clara, I'm not sure about Santa Cruz, but they all have their mobile crisis team. You can find that information online, just Google it. And if you have a situation you don't feel like you can take your family member to the hospital to get assessment or treatment, you can call the number and they will come to your home and they will, or maybe school, wherever you need them to go. The social worker usually are they're pretty experienced and depends on the assessment and the need. They can make a recommendation. Sometimes they can help you to connect with the outpatient service pretty quickly, much faster than you do it on your own. Sometimes they may need to assist the, emergency activation, have no one EMS take the child to go to the hospital. So definitely do not try to, I think it's always good if we can get a community support. So try to recruit resources as much as we can. So that's something I would encourage.
With the lady.
So yeah, I understand how how you feel. I understand very well. I have a very unique son, who ran away from home in his high school. And at that time, I know he has a very unique way of learning. For example, from the sixth grade, he just cannot stand doing the homework. I mean, the homework for him is like, he thinks it's so much redundant, not necessary. And I said, if other students need to spend an hour doing the homework, you just spend 15 minutes with them, right? But he just like gets so frustrated. And at that time, I tried to change him. And when he turned to ninth grade, our house is like always, and he ran away from home. And at that time, I understand I should not change him. And actually, like from when he was ninth grade, my friends suggested me to look at the autism. So that is the first time I have this concept of autism. I read a book from Tom, who is the Australian psychologist. But I still confused because how to define autism. It seems like from a lot of things, some of things match, but the autism say about the kids have like narrow interest. But well, my son has like a broad interest. He's very talented in math and language. He can pick up any language if he wants. So in ninth grade, so my feeling, my experience that as a parents, we need to accept the kids as he is at the current moment. If the whole world turned away from him, we need to support him. And from that time, I really accept him, whatever he is. And then I kind of like appreciate his sort of thinking, his brilliant. He turned out to be, he skipped 2 years of high school. We had, well, that's another story. Like in 10th grade, he told me, "Mom, come to pick me up. This is the last day of my high school." So it ended up to be, I sent him to the boarding school. So he skipped 2 years high school. And then in the in the early college, it's called early college. So also that's the kids who cannot keep in the high school. I also recommend this early college called Simon's Rock. And so that turned out to be my son skipped 2 years high school, have a undergraduate in UC Berkeley, and now in Stanford. And especially in UC Berkeley, there is a club called Autism Club. My son joined the club. They have a seminar, they bring the expert to give the education there. And my son is like, turned out to be STEM for autism, voice for autism. So yeah, he wrote a poem to support autism. and then he became like advocate for autism. So, and thanks, Eileen. So yeah, I'm very proud of him. And at that time, I know I am in the couple of the parents group, and people talk about their kids kind of adapt to the society. There seems like, oh, they now need to to say they can cover themselves. In turn, my son like stand up for them. And at that time I said, son, please don't say it. And as he already announced himself, and so I think he also encouraged me to support. And as parents, we do need to support our kids for the current status. And as we support them, they will grow up to really like have their brilliance to contribute to the society. Yes, thanks.
Thanks for sharing our inspiring story. I think we do need more young advocates and who are on the spectrum and willing to share their story, they are struggling, then their pivot journey to give more hope and encouragement to the world. Yeah. So any specific question from the audience? Yes, for the folks online, also for Steve, feel free to chime in whenever you see there's a fit. Please, any question online here? Okay, our audience, they are so nice. If there are any question online, feel free to even type in or unmute your microphone to speak up.
Yes, and hi, I'm Lisha. I am a parent, and my son actually is on the spectrum and diagnosed very young at the age of 2, and my question is more like, because now he's going to start college, for all the panelists, if sort of if you looking back, given your personal experience, and do you guys have any suggestion, tips, particularly in the college years, and how he should focus on, should prepare. Almost like another thing is that, a related question, and if back then, when you guys were younger in college, know what you know now and how you're going to do differently, yeah, so kind of related. Yeah, thank you. Yeah,
That's a great question. Steve, feel free to chime in when you are ready.
And Alicia, thanks for the question there. Yeah, I could share quite a bit about my college experience and how to prepare for it. I was not diagnosed. I had no idea that my college experience would be so challenging. I'd say, Alicia, for your child, having a diagnosis and getting through the school experience to get to college is a very good sign. I'd say that the college experience wherever possible, try to find or have your child find not necessarily formal accommodations, but comfortable areas. College is a complete change of lifestyle, a complete change of environment, depending on where your child is going or how far away. But I'd encourage you to have your child again lean into self-care and practices, and try to encourage healthy exploration. College is a place where you can learn and find your place and learn and find your passions. But you need to kind of do so in a safe way, in a compassionate way. And so being able to have a college experience while having a kind of a safe experience, an experience that's comfortable and accommodating for the individual is important. I'd say that college experience can also be very unique to individuals, and that as someone starts a college experience, they don't necessarily need to go along the path of everybody else again, try to find spaces in that college environment that are nurturing, that are energizing, wherever possible.
Yes, thank you.
Just a couple more things. One of the biggest things in college is that you're going to learn there how to make human connections, how to create relationships, and how to sustain those relationships in the future. So I would encourage him to expose himself to people and to try to connect with them. It's going to be awkward, it's going to be difficult, and it's going to be challenging. But this is going to help him or them later with their lives. Join clubs, because a structured environment in which you are forced to show up and to talk to other people, that's going to drive you there. And as you do that, be kind to yourself and understand that there are some differences in the way that you relate to other people, in the way that you communicate to other people, and also be honest with yourself. I can't dance. I can't dance. In my country, in my culture, that's fundamental for you as a human being. And I can't do it. And I beat myself for it for years and years and years. And it's because, I overthink the music. I overthink the way my body is moving. I have a very awkward relationship with it. And I felt that not being aware to allow myself to say, you know what, I can't do this. It prevented me from having meaningful relationships and to have a lot of much more fun that I could have had when I was in college. So I guess those would be my three pieces of advice. Allow yourself to connect with other people, be honest with yourself and to the others in the way that your brain works, and be compassionate to your own perception of the world.
Okay. Yeah, thank you. Yeah.
Yeah, I also want to share some of my thoughts. I have thought many times that what if there's any one thing that I want to change in my life, is that I wish I could have diagnosed in 2006. I have very specific date, the time to diagnose. I think if I got diagnosed earlier, there's one possibility is that I'm still doing what I'm doing today. And at a company in Silicon Valley doing this, but 10 years earlier. So I think for college, college has a lot of new opportunities that open a lot of doors, eye-opening, right? So I think the important thing is that do not define the success. Do not define what you should do, become a banker or become a consultant or become a product manager, engineers in a big company or startup CEOs will be the success. Let them to explore, follow, like just explore and see where the talents shines, right? Because we actually don't know, but we know that neurodivergent people have the talents, and opportunity college is the best chance to explore all those things. Before I diagnosed, all the success I had is because of things I'm very passionate with. I used to think that I'm a normal person, and a normal person can only do the things that they're passionate about. And the people who can do anything as long as it's important are super people. Until the moment I realized, okay, that's not true. So normal people are, they basically, if they know it's important, they are able to do it. But I think the point is like discover the interest and without interfere too much. Let them to know like what they're passionate, and then they can do pretty well.
Yeah, for college school, there's a very special life moment. And if I want to advise is do your academic work really well. First, this is the foundation to the next journey you like. So regardless whether you're on spectrum or not, the focus of the college life, please but sure you need to get very awesome academic results, the high GPA, high like a full credit score. So for me, I think that's never regretful, because this is the foundation where it is. Evelyn.
I just have a additional, I don't know if you guys, I'm sure familiar with Plan 504 plans, where Evelyn probably, did you go through it in college?
Yeah, I don't think in college I had one, but all through high school I had like a separate period of like not class, I guess. It was sort of like I would have one period a day that was just kind of like you're in the special education room, and I don't know. I sometimes did my homework there. Sometimes I was really bored. I think I've got like a paper model of a great big fantasy castle thing that I built in that class. Yeah, but I think I found it helpful just as a time to recover, I guess. Like was I could just go and relax, not have to go perform being a neurotypical in front of 20 classmates. So it was, yeah, I think I found it helpful.
I'm sorry, could you repeat what that plan? What's that?
504, 504.
Those are accommodation. Yeah, those are special accommodations for students with individual needs. If you have a learning disability like dyslexia, dysgraphia, autism, ADHD,
Everything.
you will meet with the school and the counselor, and you will have a plan in which they will discuss accommodations to bridge that gap in their learning disability between the school and your kid.
The IEP
I think
is different from
It's
a college.
I think for, I don't know about high school, but I know for college, I believe for high school, they all are called 504 plan.
correct. The
Where you
IEP,
can-
the IEP is an individualized education plan, and that's for more severe cases of learning disabilities. And this can range from the ones I mentioned before in the 504 to emotional distress, you name it. Difference between a 504 and an IEP is that the IEP has a social worker or a counselor attached to it, and it has some specific plans and goals that the school would meet with your kid, and you will review them over time. The IEP contains accommodations from the 504. So you can see them as a superset of accommodations from the 504.
Yeah, that's what I had.
My experience with 504 through a kid is in college, this is at Berkeley, they're able to give you more time for exams, delay the homework submission, or all kinds of accommodation for that kid that happens to be ASD. Yeah, so it's a very good, actually back to the disclosure part. Some parents will have or worry about disclosing it, but at least for that kid, I think it was very helpful.
Online Kathleen has unmuted her phone. Feel free if you have any questions.
Oh, I do, and my name is Lucy, and then I'm probably way far away from where my kids are under 10. So, but I also to the dads there, I want to give a hug to that. I was actually laid off after my son was diagnosed at 3 years old. So my work was not. I was in banking. My work was not accommodating at all. So my new job, I'm actually very open about my son's diagnosis. To a separate question, my son is actually in the NEST program in New York City, which is a ASD educational program that they support ASD kids. It's very, and then it's from kindergarten, elementary, all the way through high school. But one of their goal they teach them at the nest was to become a self-advocate. So he is 2E, so he has ASD, a high IQ. But my question is, like, do you find being self-advocate is almost contradicting to become inclusive? Because the idea of self-advocating is like, I'm different, I need some accommodation. Or is it like, do you think it's like, it's more like, because I mean, he doesn't know he's autistic, right? He just know that he has, he has to go to a social club. He has to learn how to make friends. Like that's what they do as a part of the curriculum. Is like they teach them how to take turns and stuff like that, bathroom etiquette, so all that stuff as they become like the support is amazing. But at the same time, it's like, do we as a parent, what do I do? Because he's so young and he was diagnosed at 3. So like, do I encourage that self-advocacy as he goes into like, teenager years or like even college years? Or do I just kind of go like, just go with the normal, because he's fine. He could make friends. He could be a little bossy. He's the type of kid who would be later on diagnosed. He's just a little awkward socially. And then, so I'm just curious to see how your opinion as a parent, because I mean, I could look back in my career as a banker and then working with all the engineers, software engineers. I could definitely see they're very, to me, they're just a little socially awkward. I never think of like they're autistic, but I still could work with them. But I think as the world become more acceptance, as like, the corporate America's become acceptance, do we still need that kind of self-advocacy? Just curious on your thoughts as in the workforce career.
I think two examples. One example is, let's say, the LGBT group. So the group starting from the 1960s and the people into the pride, and then we see the world see them in a very different perspective right now. So that's the one group example. The other could be Martin Luther King, and what he did, I think everyone familiar with what he has achieved. Those are all self-advocacy. They turn into a big difference into the world. So self-advocacy versus inclusion, they are never contradicting to each other. They are actually creating a new perspective to the world, and we see the beauty of the minority group.
Yeah, I think that's a great point. Like, yes, the world has gotten more accepting to neurodivergent people in some ways, but I think that's because we have pushed for our own acceptance and insisted on it and will not be ignored. And that's it's accepting because of our self-advocacy.
Yeah.
I mean, absolutely, that's a great point. But I feel like autism is a spectrum, right? So I feel like there's other side of the spectrum where like the profound autistic population that couldn't have a voice. I think there's a lot of like, I almost want to say like we need to advocate for the whole spectrum versus just the people that are able to get a job, able to go to college. So I'm trying to think like how could we advocate ourselves more equally for people without a voice, like, because I see people have friends that have kids who are completely nonverbal, so I'm trying to trying to think of that too. I'm sure people in the audience have that too, but I'm looking forward to the days my son is going off to college. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, you made a good point for people who cannot be verbally represented themselves. That's why this is a community, and this is also alliance, and therefore we help each other. Therefore, for people who are able to advocate themselves and can also be aligned and helpful to other people who cannot speak up for themselves. So Steve unmuted, or anyone else on the line? Later, sorry.
Oh, and yeah, I was going to speak up and say there are a few questions there in chat, Cindy, if you want to jump over to the chat.
And in the meantime, feel free to jump on while I'm looking for the chat.
And Cindy, if you want me to, I've got the chat up if you want me to read through some of the questions.
That'll be great. Vivian mentioned, parents, I'm wondering, do you need to do out of school activities like common students to be able to admit it to UC or university?
I can talk on this a bit. Yeah, my own history after high school, I went to community college at De Anza. Did 2 years there and then transferred to UC Santa Cruz. And I don't think I ever really did formal extracurricular activities. I just kind of, I don't know. I mean, I did have stuff that was related to my interests that I did, but it wasn't really, I don't know.
Depending on the kid, you may also want to take some executive functioning classes just to help them bridge with some of the patterns and behaviors that they have, so they're better equipped to deal with school and their demands. But it really depends on what are the needs of the student. The paths towards a college degree are different, and the prescriptive way of following a single line may not be what's needed for every kid.
Thanks for the answers. The next question is, what accommodations did you ask for or was able to get from your workplace? I think this is a question for us. Like, what did you get from our company as accommodation?
Noise canceling headphones.
Yeah, that's
Yes. I didn't ask for any accommodations. So I've reached a point in which I can work in there, but I do get distracted very easily. What I did ask was for my manager to, and this was a very specific case, there was a shortage of ADHD medication. And I did tell them my performance is gonna dip. You're gonna see dates slip, and it's because I don't have a medication. So let's have an open communication during this period, and once the situation resolves, we're gonna see things improve. I don't think that counts as an accommodation, but it's an example of how can you have an open communication with your manager where you're not exposing yourself, but just allowing yourself to be understood and to have ways to cope with that.
Yes, I can add more about that. I think those accommodations are physical, like a light or sound. Those are special for the special needs. For the working environment, I think what we have been advocating is for the managers, they understanding the special needs and the special working conditions we want. And there we used to have our managers training to let managers understand what a neurotypical person they can be, like what their special needs for. So that's the physical and also the mentally accommodation we have been getting support from our company. The next question. Steve. Feel free to jump in. Okay. Next question. My son is 15 years old. He is ADHD and he has a very high IQ. He'd like to go to a good college. I know this kind of kid normally suffers anxiety and other emotional issues. Do you suggest him going to a challenge school or a school which gives him a lot of spare space under his capabilities?
I think it depends on what works for him, right? Because I think at the end of the day, we want this person to be happy and to live his potential, right? So if he feels like I'm good at competing, even though I have anxiety, but competing makes me feel better because I have the IQ and I'm smart enough to deal with this, coping this, right? So then maybe a challenging competitive school get more out of them. But if it's not that case, he he's more easily influenced by other people's opinion, and sometimes in more like nurture environment, maybe a lot of free space will help. I think for anxiety and also depression, this happens so often to people, even without ADHD, right? So you want to learn how to cope with this. For example, I said that when I was having the interview with Google, when I was having the interview, I'm so anxious and there were so many thoughts in my head, I cannot organize my thoughts, right? So I need to learn how to deal with the stress. And at that point, the therapist just say that you are going through this interview just like going through the Olympic, right? So how to manage, right? So how to manage your performance that every 45 minutes interview, and I ask for a longer break. Right, so it's like a 15, normally it's 15 minutes, and then you have a next interview. I ask for 30 minutes break. So in this 30 minutes, I will do a meditation and do a lot of sunshine, like outdoor, right? So you literally need to know how to adjust this, and also how to make sure that you do not let the anxiety to block your way, right? For example, at that point I wasn't confident enough because I know I focus so many on my weakness and the things that I'm not able to do. But in the interview, I need to be confident. Right? How to fix this? I don't know how to fix this. So what I did is that I literally write down all the success or the achievement I had in a paper, just to stick in front of my. Every day I look at this, I repeat, this is all the achievement I had, and try to ignore all the mistakes, whatever, who cares, right? So it's all the success matters. So I think there are a lot of coping mechanisms that we can learn and to deal with anxiety and depression, because I think like mental health now is like so common for everyone that probably it's like become like a life learning stuff. Yeah.
The other element is, what is the source of anxiety, right? Is the anxiety driven by academics, or driven by social interaction, or driven by just existential dread, as we all do in the mornings? So understanding that will give them some clarity of, what size of a challenge does it really want to have? Because it might be that for them, the prestige of getting a degree from a highly competitive college is something that it has a lot of value for them, but they also have to, trade it off with the anxiety. So they would need to like identify what is that source. And on the other hand, I graduated from a really mediocre university, really mediocre. And it was because of the space and timing where I was, and because of the conditions in which I was present. What I decided in that case was to make the best of it, and to realize that it wasn't so much about the academics, but about the possibilities and the relationships that I will form in there that will make my career what it is. So even if you don't go to like a highly competitive college, you can still have a host of opportunities out there that you can pounce on and you can leverage. So if you don't get into RISE, it's not the end of the world. But I think I would try to find what is causing this anxiety, and how to treat it. Maybe some CBT, even some gabapentin may help. So yeah.
Yeah, okay, to summarize, finding a good way to cope with the situation and finding the source of anxiety so you can find the right solution. So the question given for like deciding which school to go, it is based on understanding your kid, based on his preference and the capability to dealing with such situations. And this can help you to make a better decision for him. So we are having 3 questions left, and we will address those, and then we will call the event. The next one, do you give us advice on getting internship during college?
Well,
No.
my advice is not really valid because I come from a different reality. In Venezuela, what you had to do was to there were some weren't agents, but there were people who managed those internship opportunities. And what you would do is that you would talk to them and, create a relationship. And then when you were ready to start looking for internships, you will have an interview and see what opportunities were out there and you apply for it. I'm not sure how that works here, but from what I can see in my labor experience uh, back in Amazon and Whole Foods is that there were a lot of programs set up by different corporations and different companies. And it was on the students to look out and seek out for these programs and apply to them. It doesn't hurt to learn about the culture of the company, to come prepared to the interview, and to be present during this interview process for an internship. But what I can see, what I saw, that there were a lot of opportunities out there that were not necessarily structured by an agent inside of college. So it was more on the student. The omen was on the student to reach out and to look for different internship programs out there based on their interests. You can tell me if that's solid advice or not.
Good. And I will give 3 advice on getting internship. And one is asking your senior, like a college student, let's say this relatively junior, you can ask your senior brother or sisters who are in the same class or same master kind of degree, like similar to you, ask those senior students. And for their advice, probably they can also give you internship similar to where they get intern. And the second, join certain clubs. And because in a lot of college, they have clubs and they have a different source to get internship opportunities information. And the third, of course, there are search. There are all the open internet information. So be more proactive for yourself, because in the end of the day, it's you own your career, you own your life. So be more proactive to sourcing the resource online. There's always job posting regarding the internship. The next question, how did you adjust yourself from college to workspace? Steve, you're on mute. You want to take that
Yeah,
one?
I can speak a little about I'd say my experience of moving from college and graduating to work it was honestly very, very positive. Moving from a sort of a chaotic environment in college where you've got to run around the gigantic campus and find places, and you've got thousands and thousands of people around you, to moving to a much smaller environment, a much more rigid kind of schedule and routine was very positive for me. I also, going back to internships, I did several internships through my college career, and so I didn't necessarily jump from I'm a student to now I'm going to hunt for a job and find a job and be employed. It was a much more gradual process. I sort of ramped down the academics and ramped up the professional life. And I think that's something I'd encourage, going back to internships, to encourage your kids to explore and to kind of stretch themselves, to find internships, to find part-time work or something like that in an area that they're passionate about, so that they can have that experience. They can kind of kick the tires on working in different environments like that. And often for people that have ADHD or kind of executive function challenges, having that extra that extra part of their life, that they're both doing their academics and doing an internship or doing a part-time job, can be a very grounding and a very kind of uh, more safe environment. And so I'd say, internships, easing yourself into the workplace, and being able to kind of test different environments through internships or part-time work would be valuable.
Thank you, Steve, and hope this answers Hong Yang's question, or in case anyone here wants others. Okay. So the last question, in the workplace, despite the noise canceling headphones, if colleagues interrupt you, how to handle this situation without disclosing your situation while politely, because masking at the moment of being interrupted is really hard.
Hi. Yeah. No, seriously, block time in your calendar with focus time, or find a secluded location where you know that you won't be distracted. People will distract you because that's what they do. They need something from you and they will get it from you. Hide.
No
If-
wonder I cannot find
if you can't, I shouldn't say this, but you can also look a little bit upset when you know that you're gonna have a tough day, because people can sense that and they'll be like, you know what, maybe not today. Maybe I'll just leave them alone for today. And if this doesn't work, very politely just tell them, can I have 15 minutes and I'll get back to you.
Yeah, I think the question behind this one is actually find out the alternative strategy to be more politely decline to other people or politely say no to other people. So there could be a lot of ways. You can even have a small bag raising your hand. You can print out a label like, now I'm in focusing time 1 hour, just print it out, put into your workplace and stick with that so people can see that. And with the chats, the different chat tool, they can have status like I'm now in certain time block, or you can mute yourself in the chat. So there are also technology to support you without like politely saying no, politely refuse other people.
Yeah, I also want to add a little bit of, so I basically know when where are you gonna be productive and when do you expect that nobody should interrupt you, right? So I relate to like during the whole day, like nobody interrupt you. For me, I know that I'm productive and the morning time is my document writing time, strategic thinking time. So probably from 8 to 10, I just block that on my calendar, say no meetings, no anything, right? So this might be my own time and I can hide in a meeting room to do this. But after that, for the rest of the day, maybe because my type of job is like all the meetings, or even if I'm not in the meeting, I'm sitting there, I can't focus. So people come to me, talk to me, it's fine. So I think it's like how to organize your time to know what time, find one like specific chunk of time to block it and hide somewhere to be productive. And the rest of the time, maybe just put all your meetings together. So yeah, so you are in the same mood, so you don't have to switch.
Right. And you don't have to disclose to the world that you're on the spectrum to say, you know what, I have communication preferences. Coming up to my desk to interrupt me is not one of them.
Yeah. Oh, I also noticed that in the company, sometimes they have an about me page, like to tell people how they work, right? So they say, I usually reply email within 24 hours, and I prefer to have meetings in the afternoon, and morning is my focus time. So they have all those kind of things. Some people have it, right? So people around you, if you feel people don't respect your personal space or something, you can point to the document and it helps them.
Yeah, cool. So last comment or sharing?
Yeah, so another thing I would like to share with the parents with kids before college. So we know that our kids, some of them, a lot of them are very gifted. We don't need to worry about their academic skill, but we want to they to be well-being. They have difficulty in school. They don't have many friends, but with their special skill set, for example, math or computer science, well, we would like to encourage them to share with others. To share with others, you can, well, like when my son was in 7th grade, one day he told me, Mom, I love math and I want to share with others. So I invite friends, kids coming. So in that way, they start building relationships with other kids. So what I want to say is that encourage kids to share. Don't hold on themselves. Well, once you share, you have a you build out an environment for the kids to interact with others. And they, in this way, they also have, they will also get a lot of support. And as a parents, you also have a strengthen the relationship with other parents and get more information to help your kids. That's what I want to share. Thank you.
So, okay, thanks everyone to joining today's session. And thanks Ching again for the organization.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you all. I really want to say thank you to all the panelists today, spending the Saturday morning with us, driving or biking from long distance or hop online, spend the whole 2 hours with us, sharing very authentic and very like a personal experience, very inspiring. Yeah, I really getting emotional many times during the sharing. And we are proud that we are very, you know, we were being supportive and accept accept autistic community. And we're so proud we're doing that. Joining hands with Tag on the Spectrum, with CAAC and many other nonprofit organizations. I hope more of our community members can be supportive and understanding, and also our neurodivergent individual fellow members have the the brave to unmask and be yourself and know about yourself and advocate for yourself, and we can have a better community for everyone.